All right, so part two. I wasn't even expecting to get this far or to this point or here at all, but here we are. Part two is about when you are separated from your twin flame. I'm kind of freestyling this because I haven't even thought about it for this video, but I've thought about it a lot. Completing the mission, person's not cooperating. I'll just start an expression of what my general thoughts are. If you're separated, yeah, everybody I've ever described in one of these unions, I have been separated from, either from the beginning to the end, never met, or meeting, separating, ending, meeting, having never met, wanting to meet. That's where I am now. And where I've gotten to now with my own experience is that you want what you want. For me, I was confused as to me knowing who you are, how am I ever going to get married or remarried? Because I'm getting a divorce now. How am I ever going to continue in any kind of relationship? Ultimately, the conclusion that I came to, the first step to the conclusion was one that I was suggested, which was, if you get married, it'll be understandable. It's something that women need, especially like if you want to get involved in a sexual relationship with somebody, especially in many societal standards, in a lot of women's minds, things like that, that you need to be married to have sex and things. And I believe that's the best way. I'm Christian, so it's been part of my core values, the majority of my life, but I also feel like it's a good way to be. So you had that consideration. But that was a pit stop. The pit stop for the other half was, I'm just not going to get married. And then the ultimate decision was made that actually I'm deciding on you. How is it going to happen? I mean, I'll tell you my situation. Like, I'm almost divorced. I'm going through that. I've already moved out. Been, separated for almost a year and a half. So that's just a technicality, believe me. Distance. This person is thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away, in a country that I actually was interested in moving to years ago. And I actually lost somebody I had a really deep connection to going back to this country as well. So it's a weird thing to even consider, like, if I move there for this person, I might see this other person, because they also live in the same city as well as the same country. But it doesn't matter because that previous situation is over. But with the new person being in this country, talking about that part, it's not completely challenging, but we're not together. And there are things here that, like, I have kids, and There's the consideration of being here versus going to another place thousands of miles away, which I'm fine with. But then I have to think about their dad. I think about if that person came here, they'd be leaving their life. There's all kinds of technical things. Whatever your technical things are, I'm sure they are very, 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 very challenging and at times disheartening, because I felt that way in the beginning. Like, how should I think about you when all I want to do is be with you, but it seems like everything is working against us? But it's really not, because after that, after a series of periods of thought and learning more and loving more, you get to a point where unless I'm forced to do otherwise, there is nobody else I would want to be with besides you. And I only say if I'm forced, and it's because, only if there are things that are against my own values that happen, not that I would think that this person would do them. But it's just the disclaimer when I make a statement as bold as, I'm going to make a decision for you, and you're a long way away, and I don't foresee any way of us being together in the near future. First, I replace that thought with anything is possible. But then everything overrides with God being on our side. But in general, for the best for anybody's life, that's something that anybody can rest in. But then, coming into a close second and third tide for that place is, I love you. I only want to be with you. Why would I want to choose anybody else? I don't want to choose anybody else. And then the same thing extends from me to him. I don't want to force you to do anything that's uncomfortable. I want to make the decision for my own. I don't want to be overbearing with my decision as to what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I did feel that way. Like, I have these little inklings of, I want you here. I really wish that we could meet. I really wish that we could be together. But then I work on the parts of the relationship that kind of stem from that. Wanting to keep their mind space and their atmosphere like happy. So I try to work on my own happiness. I try to work on moving forward. I try to work on things that might bring us closer together, that are still good for my life, but then that still lead to possibilities. I rest in the possibilities. So I'm a very committed person, not to just anybody, but when I'm committed, I have almost a natural reflex. I don't have reflux, thank God, but I have a natural reflex where I naturally do not feel attracted to anybody else. Even guys that I was attracted to before or considered even for a relationship or I would date you, all of that just disappears. And it's maintained by me getting treated well. And what I've noticed at this point is that it doesn't matter how far someone is away, that you can really be treated well. And it's a lot more fulfilling than, something that just happens to be tangible. But nowhere near as significant. And there's nobody that would be as significant as this person. So I've noticed that a lot of people they get upset when their twin flame is running or they can't be with them. They tend to want to force them to love them or listen to them or acknowledge that they're a twin flame or something like that. I suggest with that is speaking to that person in the most respectful way that you can. Avoiding written words, avoiding over posting, over texting, over anything. I think those things can be used in a good form. But as far as like the constant dialogue, I think that the biggest part that helps is when the person feels what's happening. Even when this person and I initially like got introduced, it was there was no romantic involvement. I remember thinking, oh, he's good looking, but and we're like the same age. Like, I can't believe that we're like only a year and a half difference. Like, that was like, wow, you know. But then it was more like a brother. And then so he knew about something before me, and he respected where I was, but he always was himself, and it made me really like adore him as a person, as I was able to get to know that part of him, because he was a mentor to me, and an artistic mentor. So I'd be learning about techniques and things like that, and I would be thinking, oh wow, like he's just such a nice person. Like, wow, you know. There was a little period of time where I was thinking, oh, would I mind dating him? But then I just left it alone because I felt like it was really like dangerous. Like I would lose him. It would have just not a good idea. Like I needed to keep it for what we were working on. I didn't want to be a groupie. I didn't want to impose on him. I didn't want to get any. I just felt like it wasn't us. Like, you know, I felt like if I did anything like that, I would be potentially ruining things to a point where we wouldn't be in contact anymore. We've discussed that nowadays, and the ultimate decision is that we're not going anywhere away from each other no matter what. We especially don't want to be away from each other when it comes to us being together. But he never forced anything on me. He just presented himself when I stopped you know, being involved or having a union with another person. And it was kind of like, what? And then it was more of an it was more like a profession. Like, yeah, I liked you before, you know. And it was kind of like really nice because I was able to go back in my memories to when we were just talking about work, and I was able to apply that same adoration to somebody who was safe for me to like now. And then it was kind of like meeting somebody for the very first time, and then you associate them back with their work, and then it's just mind-blowing. So yeah, so if a person is running, I wasn't running, but I wasn't available. He wasn't running, but he to me wasn't available. But when we finally met up, all of those times still added to the whole. If the person is running and they're running away, I don't think that there's much of a choice besides trying to let them know in a very quiet, non-aggressive, non-pressure kind of way. But if you get to a certain point where you're drowning in your thoughts about them, you're drowning in wanting to be with them, you're longing for them so much, and they're just not cooperating, there might be other things for you to learn, maybe with somebody else. at times like that, I really suggest working on fine-tuning your consciousness. Wake up when the sun is about to come up and watch the sun. They call it sun gazing. Watch sunsets, watch sunrises. It'll activate your mind, and listen to certain frequencies that lend themselves to, certain awakenings. Change your diet. Yeah, it's a hard one. Go deeper into prayer and meditation. I suggest learning about Buddhism. I'm Christian, but I am Buddhist as well. And Hindu, for that matter. Do whatever it is that will take you closer to your consciousness. And then you might trigger that person to have an awakening if they aren't awakened already. You may find out they're not your twin flame. You may find out that there's a whole lot more going on than twin flame stuff. It's a really nice thing, though. People pay a lot of attention to it because it is an ultimate kind of love. But there's a lot of good love. And some of it is even solo. I started this whole thing out solo, running from an abusive marriage. Believe me, there was no thoughts of love that came when I was looking for an answer. And I'd been Christian for years, and I had answers, but I needed to get my mind right so I can not have to live in the environment I was living anymore. I've been a stay-at-home mom. I left all my jobs. I was working on things, but I needed to be able to start completely over. And that's hard to do when you have somebody who... I'll just stop there. And so I needed more of an answer. I needed to be able to work at a higher capacity. I needed a higher frequency of thinking. I needed a clearer mind. I needed to zen out, because that's what I call it. I know it's probably not PC, but I needed to zen out because, when you're dealing with ruckus and things like that, you don't want anything clouding up your mind space. So I know that's not the thing that people want to hear. But when you're doing all this chasing to try to force somebody to listen to you, even though you're right, unless they're ready, just like anything else, anybody else, unless they are ready and they want to, it's going to be futile. So at some point with people, I can name a ton of them over the years, that I've had to just say, you know what, it's time for me to stop trying with you. And this is after 10 years of trying to get people to see their potential or not treat people badly. Multiple cases of that experience, that kind of experience. Gets to a point where okay, I'm kind of abusing myself here. So I'm not saying leave that person behind or forget them. If you're going to be considering marriage, that might be... It's raining really hard. That might be something that you need to think a little bit more deeply about. The thing about marriage that I think about, that I thought about myself when I was making the decision to be with somebody, is that I cannot get married with this other person on my mind. Me getting divorced now? Psh, I mean, really, fuck that shit. Seriously, that is a technicality of nonsense. So I'm on the exit. But entering into something with somebody, nobody gets in the way of my husband and I, my boyfriend and I. I am a committed person. And it's not to say that people haven't interfered before. And I can think of one time where I didn't break up with a boyfriend for somebody else I was interested in. I didn't cheat. but I called that other person, and that was pretty much close enough to cheating as I've ever been. But I called them after I got into an accident. I called my boyfriend and I called this other person. Now, we wound up breaking up. I just didn't know how to break up with him. But in general, besides that happened 12 years ago, still makes me feel guilty to this day. I'm like, I wish I could have cleaned that one up. But otherwise, entering in a marriage with another person, in my mind, that I have this profound love and joy for, it just couldn't happen. And that's why going into it, I wanted some sort of answer. Even though I don't have a concrete answer as to what's going to happen, I have enough of an answer to operate with. And that's the answer that I gave myself and that I was helped to come to. Because he helped me with that consideration, because we're going through the same things. We're going through a lot of the same things, seems like. So it's maybe something similar, a lot of similarities. So that's what I'm thinking this may be. But let's just say, I was going to say something, but I don't want to go there. See, I was going to paint the picture of if I'm wrong, but I don't even want to touch that because it's unnecessary. So I'll put it like this. I've made my decision, and it's a harmonious one. If it was one-sided, I would stick with my decision if I really felt in my heart that I knew. But as far as putting pressure on the other person, I don't think that's so hot. But it could work for some. In general, I think no, but it's all case sensitive. But for the most part, there are things that you can do in the meanwhile to make yourself the best that you can be. And on that note, I will end part 2. I hope that I didn't ramble on in so many directions. I went into this cannonballing into a freestyle. It always feels good to make these videos, so I'm looking forward to the next one. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.